Hello again, everybody. If you could please find your seats. Once you plotted yourself nicely down, could you put your hands together for Andrei Kurylovich?
Hello, hello. Sound works. My name is Andrei. I'm a concept designer at Character Design Studio in Berlin. We create the classics of tomorrow. We're doing concept art for AAA video game production, and that's my professional work. But on the side, when I wanna enjoy myself a bit more, I do personal work. And my field of expertise is mostly hard surface design, and I love building robots in my free time. That's what I want to say. And this is going to be the topic of my little presentation / demo today. I'm going to show you one of my projects that I started and not quite finished, like it's never finished, I guess. And I'm going to introduce you to my thinking process of how I approached it, how I approached the idea and everything. And I'm going to show you how I approached it technically as well. Since I pretty much exclusively work in 3D with Blender, this might be interesting for you guys. All right. So I had the idea to build a squad of robots because it's cool, I guess. And the idea behind it for me was to build different robot designs in the same shape language, same world, same universe, and yeah, to create a few robots, pretty much. And I guess it's not quite familiar for me to do it as I approach this project, but I think it's quite interesting to show, and it might be something that you guys can apply in your work and your professional work. And what I did in this project, I actually started writing things down and not drawing or modeling. What I wrote down were things which might be relevant for the design later, but which are mostly logically interesting questions that you can ask yourself and which will lead your design. So I just went ahead and thought, okay, those robots, they might be controlled by humans, like RC toys, or maybe they're like AI Terminator style stuff. What would be what would the interaction between look like? Would they be like a swarm of drones that work in a one organic shape, or are they like more anthropomorphic? And I ended up thinking about this. I wanted to build a squad of robots who are different, have different functions, and operate like I don't know if you guys know it, the video game Star Wars Republic Commando, where you have like a squad of dudes who have different functions, and they're very distinct. As opposed to, like, for example, battle droids from Star Wars, who are like all the same and pretty much do the same stuff. And then I started brainstorming of what kind of crew members you can have, and it ended up being quite a lot. I mean, there is like trophy stuff, like a sniper robot, and I wrote down some stuff that might be important for the design, like it has to be long range, stealthy, and so on. I tried this archetype of a breacher guy, like a heavy dude that will breach doors. A gunner, someone with a big gun, and that's all of his character and function. Then interesting one was thinking about the medic, because like you need combat medics, but those aren't humans, so it will need to be a mechanic. And then it was starting to become interesting, because you were starting to think, okay, if it's a mechanic, he can also repair robots, but can maybe do some other stuff, like hacking enemy machines, or just hacking terminals like this fella here. And so on. Like we have a few more, like a sapper explosive guy, some light scout guy / signalman, all stuff that is kind of pulled from reality, but I tried to think about it more in the context of a robot squad. And today I'm going to show you the process for the trophy guy, for the sniper. And yeah, what do we have with the sniper? What did I write down? He has to be long distance. snipers operate from a long range. He has to hide well. He has to be stealthy, whatever that means. His weapon must be heavy. It must deal heavy damage with a single shot. And this might lead to some recoil with the gun. When you shoot, it goes back. So you might think of some stuff that would display this function or like display some counteraction to this recoil. Has to be precise and controlled with his attacks. Operates from distance from the squad. I didn't really use that one, but I also thought of sight enhancement because I mean he has to look far, and yeah. With those things, I looked up a few refs. Like it's not a thorough ref research. It's mostly for some key points that might be of relevance for like ideas that you can then implement and design in your own way. Like this is the recoil idea, like some hydraulics or whatever stuff. Like here's even a stock of a gun that has some coils in it that would compensate recoil. We have some cloaking stuff that Spec Ops guys or snipers might be using to hide, like a ghillie suit or whatever. Yeah, and obviously some eyes or like optical enhancements that might be interesting. And just like, I don't know, cool images. I love Evangelion. This guy has a big gun. My guy will have a big gun too. So with this in thought, I jumped into my favorite program of all times and build something. Yeah. This was the initial draft for the guy. I'm going to turn on Eevee. This is a real-time rendering viewport from Blender, and started designing the guy, keeping all those points in mind. And I was trying to emphasize the function of this design very hard. And first thing that I was thinking of, okay, the head will be some unique thing with a lot of optics on it, and it might be interesting to incorporate it with the weapon that he uses. So we have something that looks like this, where the guy has. Oh wait, let's delete this. Where the guy has a head, and when he aims down his rifle, it becomes like one unit. Then I thought of the recoil stuff, right? This is where the gun goes when he shoots, and his whole shoulder is pretty much on a recoil spring that will go back with the shot and compensate for the heavy recoil of his huge gun. And the same stuff he has also in his arms, in his legs, and so on. What helped me design him, thinking of all those things, was the ability to pose him while designing, while modeling. I mean, it's a constant challenge with concept art of characters that in 3D, that you have the constraints of the symmetry that you really like to turn on. Like you work on something, you turn on symmetry, but this makes you work, chaos. That makes you work in an A pose, which looks boring and it doesn't tell you much about what's going on. Like I could build anything with this guy in this default pose, and it would look okay, but it wouldn't look cool. So what I did was a little shenanigan which allowed me to pose him like a little rig, and I was able to actually try different poses out. And doing that allowed me to think more of how long the limbs are. Oh, the arm is missing, but never mind. How long the limbs are supposed to be, and how long do they actually have to be? Because sometimes you have to think about function, but also form. And some things that are functional are not necessarily the best looking. So what I usually do, I go for something that looks good, and then try and see how it works. And if it doesn't work, I push it a bit more towards function, more, until we get something that works and still has the appealing form for me. So I gave him like this pose where he's crouched and shooting. Obviously, this influenced how long the sight has to be, what his pose looks like, what his head looks like. I even have a whole range of poses where this guy like takes his gun out. And this informed me a lot while designing him, and it was necessary, I would say, to do it like this. Let's see. I will show you the technical idea behind how this thing works, how you can actually have a design in an A pose and model it here in the A pose while still having an instance of him in pose. So I can, for example, model this guy, like move stuff around and so on, and it changes on all the posed guys, and I instantly see the change. The idea behind it, or the function behind it that Blender gives you, is called instance collections. What it is, like in any other software, you can group objects in groups in the outliner. Like I have a whole collection for this clavicle shoulder thing, right? Like this is what it looks like isolated. And if I want to, I can right-click it and create an instance to scene. And what it does, it creates like a copy of this whole collection as one single object. And anything that I change in the actual collection here, like if I, for example, delete something, it updates live with this instance collection stuff. And this allows you to pretty much instance every single piece of the guy, every leg, every hand, everything, and rebuild him as a copy, pretty much, of instances. So this guy, nothing of this is mesh. It's all nothing of his arms or anything is mesh. It's all instances, and anything I would change in this guy would also change here. So this was very crucial for my process, and I would argue that this design, while it hits most of my points that I wrote down here, like it has hydraulics that compensate for recoil, it has the optics down, he has a big rifle. What it does not do is look stealthy. He looks boxy. He looks like a Star Wars droid with very boxy shapes. Even with the ghillie suit thing, graphic designing ghillie suit, very functional, not. He still looks like an edgy robot. I could say, okay, this is like whatever, the universe he plays in, but I wanted to go deeper on the stealth thing. So I went back to the drawing board and looked up some references of real-life stealthy vehicles that the military, for example, uses. And what I found were two distinct shape languages that were all around the place. We all know the edgy stuff, pretty much. This is the F-117 Nighthawk stealth bomber with the very edgy shapes. So I could imagine redesigning the whole shelling of this guy in a very edgy way, which I then did as a variation. So I pretty much took him, deleted all this stuff, all the weird beveled boxes stuff, and started to implement those stealthy, cut-off, sharp shapes, and came up with this. So the base of it is pretty much the other guy. The whole system behind how I post him and everything is all the same, but he looks like very different and much more stealthy. But I was like, this is cool, but we also have this stuff. More modern aviation technology that is used, like drones and so on. And my eyes fell upon those three guys. I was like, what if the head of my dude was shaped like this, and the whole shelling design was quite organic. Then again, went in and came up with rounded body. No, with this young man here, clearly influenced by the drone design, and I was like, all right, this guy, this is quite interesting to me. So I took him and did some, did some posing again with this guy. I redesigned the rifle a bit, and I thought, okay, This is something that I like. And I can detail him out more and go more into depth. I mean, he's not quite finished yet, right? But I went in more and designed his hands more, made sense of the mechanics of the joints, like how the hands would work. It's not perfect 3D rig by any means. Like, I'm still a concept artist. I'm still just doing like pretty images. But it's still very informative if you do include function, because it will influence also the form. And usually stuff that looks functional and is functional looks good, especially on tech stuff. So this is what I came up with in the end. And because I like graphic colors and stuff, I thought, what about giving him some interesting color scheme? And in Blender, you have nice options for shading. So I gave him a nice gradient between some nice colors, which we learned a lot about from the previous speaker. And the end result looks like this. Obviously, this is a step away from function at this point. I'm clear. Like, if we were to go very functional, this would probably won't make sense unless he's fighting on a planet with red soil and like very turquoise, cyan-colored sky. But still, I thought it was a very nice graphical statement at this point. All right. I wanted to show you a few technical things that we could also do with this instancing shenanigan that I showed you. You have a 2D concept and it's cool and nice and pretty much sufficient for most clients, but I would argue that some movement would give you even more information about the design and just be interesting to see what would happen if this was animated. And there is a tool on the internet from Adobe, which is called Mixamo. It's a free tool where you can upload your guy. It's an FBX, and it gives him an auto rig, automatic bone structure, and you have a huge library of animations that you can put on him. And I did this, not with the sniper guy, but with his friend, who is here. So you can take this rig in Mixamo, you can export it as an FBX, together with the skeleton, like here, and have him in Blender. And then if I press play, he walks. A bit laggy, but still. And then I can go ahead, pretty much delete all of this stuff, delete this original mesh, take this rig, reset the transforms, and take a mesh of this robot here. Like, those are again instance collections from a different design, and I can move them towards here and start parenting it to the rig. Like, I take this guy to this, boom, boom, press parent to object, nice. And if I press play, it didn't work. Oops. Again. So, like so. Parent, bone, and voila. And you can imagine if I do this whole process, we have our functioning model that we can still adjust, but it's bound to a rig. And the result can be very interesting. You can very quickly build some very finished-looking stuff, like those walking robots. And you can still go ahead and change them up, modify them. Of course, there are restrictions because all those joints that we have here are solid objects. They don't deform. So it's obviously not perfect and not production ready. But for me, it's already informing enough to go ahead and look at him when he's moving and see, all right, maybe here I would need more space for the leg to move in, so clean up the joint more. And look further, all right. if he's walking, what could be like not functional in that situation? What could I adjust? And in the end, it's a very, very fun thing to do as well. Yeah, so this is this part. What I'm now going to show you is a little bit of my process of modeling this stuff. Because obviously, most of you would argue, all right, 3D is cool, it's nice to make very finished results, but when you want to be fast, you better sketch, right? And it's probably right, or it has been probably right until relatively recently. Because I would argue that you can actually model in 3D very fast and achieve very fast results that look good and also you can tweak them around, which might be difficult with a drawing, maybe even. And I'm going to explain the philosophy of it to you. Basically, I was playing a lot of World of Warcraft, and I was playing PvP, player versus player, and the idea there was you had to be very fast. And to be very fast, you needed to have very good key bindings and use macros, like take multiple commands and put them into one command. So you press a button and your character warrior does like whatever, changes his stance to battle stance and presses an ability. And I thought, yeah, what if I apply this philosophy to modeling? And it's pretty much what I did, and it turned out quite interesting because if you take like software like Blender, you have a lot of shortcuts that are not reachable by the palm of your one hand. You have to like grip, like go to numpad and some stuff like that. And that's not very fast. And it's also not very fun because when you want to design stuff, you want to not think about pressing buttons. You want to think about the shape, think about the design, about function, about the relevant stuff. And to do that best, I took a look at the key bindings and I was thinking hard about, okay, I'm modeling, and I'm pressing this one combination of buttons. Like, for example, in Blender, you have the function to zoom into something. Yeah, it's on a numpad on the keyboard. You have to leave your hand off the mouse, click it, and then it does it. But it's a very important function, and it allows you to navigate the viewport very fast. So what I did, I binded it to the mouse. Same thing I did with isolate. And then I went deeper, and I was like thinking, what can we create macros for? Like, for example, if we have a cube, right? Oops. If we have a cube and we want to move vertices of the cube, like you still would use box modeling, the default stuff, there is a function to snap two vertices, but you have to click like 5 buttons to achieve this. What you can do is create with an add-on called PyMenu Editor, you can create macros with different functions chained after each other. So I can bind all those 5 buttons that I need to click for vertex snap, bind it to one pie menu, click it, and it turns on instantly, and I can move this stuff around. Come on. And it snaps to my vertices. Like, for example, I want to take this edge loop, whatever, move this edge here, like so, you can do it. Why would I need anything else but the vertex snap? Because there's another function that's very cool, and it's called surface snap. Like, for example, I want to do some screws, right? Or some needs on the surface. I model one really quick. Whoops. Like so. And I want to populate this surface with them. There is a function. I can go ahead, like go gizmo, like move it in, rotate. Takes half an hour, right? By the time you did the 5th screw, you're already like thinking about other stuff. But there's a function that's called like surface snap. Pretty much also here, also a function on those menus. But again, you need to click 20 buttons to achieve it. So I also made a macro for it. So I can switch between vertex snap and surface snap, and I can boom, 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 populate the mesh with those needs, how many ever I want. Very cool, very useful. So the add-on PyMenu Editor, big recommend from me if you want to increase the modeling speed of yours. So what I'm going to do now is do a little bit of modeling while commenting what I'm doing and explaining a little bit of my modeling workflow. I'm going to try to build a shape, maybe like the head of this guy. And I would usually start with would be a cube. A cube, let's start clean, blank slate, cube. Best shape, perfect shape, most of the time, but not in this case. What I then would do is subdivide it. Give it a subdivision level, give it a nice smooth shading, and I would like start molding something that looks interesting to me. Pull in some edge loops, maybe move like so. Maybe we take those two, extrude them, all right. Like so, like so, like so. It's like with drawing, you know, with modeling, it's not easy to comment while you do it, but we will try. So, okay, let's do something like this. Now we have this shape, whatever it is. And what I then do, as opposed to what a 3D modeler might be doing, I don't care about topology, so I use booleans. What boolean is a function in 3D software which cuts one shape from another shape. So I can select this guy, and my mesh, I can press Q, open the add-on called HardOps, another very cool thing that allows you to access functions of Blender that are otherwise hidden or like not so handy to add. Like for example, if I were to add a boolean by hand, I would need to create like boolean modifier, press, select, oh, it's broken, hate my life. But with HardOps, you can click, press difference, and it's done. Like obviously this is a bit broken. I need to turn on auto smooth here. And we have now a little, like a little hole in this thing. And we can go ahead and give this guy subdivision modifier and start modeling. And you see what the shape, how the shape changes? It gets a nice, interesting opening, bless you, that we can then shape as we want. And for example, I would want to do some similar shape, similar hole in the back. I could create another Boolean modifier, or I could just go into edit mode in Blender and just duplicate this whole cube and move it here. And we would get something like this. So this will be the first layer of cutting my model. And then we can already think, all right, we would probably need some more details. So we can go ahead, create another cube, make it a bit interesting shaped. Maybe give it a bevel modifier again with HardOps. And press like so. Apply the scale, rotate a bit around, scale it, and then you cut it in here, like so. And you get a hole like this. It's already much more interesting than just a cube, right? Even though it's still a cube. Then we can go ahead and again in edit mode just duplicate it around, like wherever we want to have it. Thinking, of course, about design, about shapes, about where to place it. I won't go into that because it's a huge, huge topic for itself. And with time, you develop an autopilot pretty much for it, where you start populating the object with some details in some areas. Maybe duplicate this guy, scale him, make a bigger opening, like so. And you get already much more interesting shapes going on, like so. Then I would say, if this is a paneling surface, right? It's probably crafted in a way or manufactured in either one piece or it needs to have like some openings that would include big surfaces to open up. And you can indicate it with cut lines. Stuff like this, like those. And you guessed it, you can also do it with booleans. I create a plane, I give it a solidify modifier with my favorite add-on, and I can cut it into this surface, and we get already a nice cut line. Then we can start extruding it around, like so. Give it a subdivision modifier, give some control loops. I mean, it's basic modeling pretty much, but in the context of the modifiers that you can use in Blender, in the context of an add-on that allows you to apply those modifiers very, very fast. And what is cool about this workflow is that you can tweak your main shape quite extensively till while you already have a very detailed object going on. Like if I was to say, this is cool, but I need to have it like wider. If it was modeled properly, I would say it would take a few years to make. But I can just take this guy, move it here, take the cuts that I made, flip, move them here, and they changed live. Changed while I speak. And like so, I can pretty much sculpt and look for interesting shapes while already having some detail level going on. It's very handy, very useful. What I also like doing, especially for detail areas, is when I start detailing stuff out, I start out with our favorite primitives. Again, cubes and cylinders. You can solve a lot of stuff with it by sticking them into each other and indicating some detail, especially on the first stages of a design. Like you don't need to have perfect shapes, perfect complex shapes in the beginning. When I start some stuff out, I usually stay quite far from the object and focus on big areas and small areas and detail areas, and focus on the rhythm of how it's going on, focus on the scale of shapes, trying not to have them too even, even though sometimes you can do it, because for reasons of function, as I previously said, but I go ahead and on this guy, we would start modeling some, maybe a sensor. So I take the cylinder here, I take the cube, put it here, and create some framework, like so. Duplicate it around. Maybe you see me also like rotating a lot in the ortho view and so on. There's also a nice shortcut to do it fast. You can do it, click it here, but Blender default, if you press Alt middle mouse button and you swipe the mouse, it does this. It's very, very helpful. And again, into our World of Warcraft philosophy, we want to be efficient with our time. We want to be fast. We want to not think too much about pressing buttons. You want to think about design. Like so. Then I would go ahead, maybe duplicate this here, maybe here. And then maybe I would say, wouldn't it be nice to have a shape that would go between all three of those cylinders? I could go ahead and like model it with a cube and so on, but our best friend HardOps has a very nice function that allows us, to do it very fast. Oh God, I think I broke something. No. All right, let's. Yeah, perfect. I just wanted to move those three cylinders together here. Oh God. Now let's create new cylinder for that. This one is cursed. Boom. Link material. Again, pie menu. Oh God, nice. Pie menu I made for linking material. Default Blender is Control L, like you don't want to press it. It's horrible. But you can create pie menu with all the nice functions that are important, often used, and have shitty key bindings. And you do it by, you just model and then you analyze how you model. You analyze what buttons you press and how often you press them. And then you think, okay, would it be worth to maybe create a new shortcut for it? Would it be worth to do A, B, or C? And by constantly thinking about that stuff, or not constantly, but like constantly enough, you then will create or shape your software of your choice, in our case Blender, to something that is very efficient and gets the job done for you. But anyway, I wanted to merge those three cylinders. And I would do that by pressing Q, go to HardOps, and press to shape, and scroll button of the mouse, and get this guy. Magic. Very cool function. And like so, we can take those cylinders, scale them a bit, extrude maybe, and get something resembling sensors or eyes or optics on this model. And then proceed like modeling it out with normal default functions, like so. So this is how I would approach this shape language. But we also have our second guy, who is very edgy. He's an edgelord. And how would we approach shapes like this? You could think, all right, this looks very low poly. It looks like just edges. We could model it with by hand, like create a cube and bevel and move edges in here and so on. But the problem is, it is very easy to fall into the trap of topology when you model and break out of it and find shapes that are interesting and maybe new. So you want to find ways to avoid it and actually be free with your shapes. And again, Booleans, very nice way to do it. You can take this cube and we can just cut them, like so. And under a very weird angle. Like to model this stuff, like so far it looks simple. Then we can do it again. Cut him like so. Cut this angle. And it already becomes very complicated. He gets like a few edges. Let's go solid mode so you see it better. Like this. And then I could go ahead again, create another one. Duplicate, isolate those, scale a bit, take a weird angle, maybe something freaky. Let's go. And cut like so. And again, get another cube. Like so. Cut it. And we get this shape that's very interesting. We can still adjust it quite a bit. Like we can still go ahead and take those Booleans, we can move them around, we can take this shape, move it around, and have full control for a very long time of the process without sacrificing pretty much anything, because this stuff doesn't get too performance taxing. Even if your model looks, maybe if your model looks like this with this, those are the Booleans, you know, maybe then it becomes a bit slow. But yeah, to be honest, those are the Booleans for all three robots, and it still works fine. So don't be afraid of this stuff. Utilize it, and you will have a lot of fun with modeling as well, because you will come up with new stuff, new shapes, and enjoy it quite a lot. I mean, many hard surface artists use CAD software like Fusion 360 or Plasticity. This stuff is very powerful because you don't think about topology when you model with it, right? But I would argue that in Blender you can achieve similar results, but be much faster. And in Blender you can have pretty much finished results with the rendering, with everything. And yeah, don't need anything else. It's for free, except for the add-ons. So I would end this demo now because I have no time anymore. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I would be happy to answer some of your questions.
We do have time for a few questions, if anybody would like to ask.
Hi, what is your arena rank?
My what?
Your arena rank in PvP.
My highest was, does it work? My highest was on TBC Classic. I played a very non-viable setup, and it was 2.1k. Not too high, but was cool.
Hi. Since you're using the add-on, the HardOps add-on, do you apply the add-on, the changes? Because when you make the rig to animate or whatever, it doesn't, it works?
Yes, it works, and you don't need to apply stuff. Like I basically only apply modifiers when I need them applied to model further. Like sometimes you have situations where you need to do intricate edge details, and at those points you oftentimes need to apply stuff, do some little retopology by hand, and then like do some nice chamfers or something like that. But for the whole posing stuff, I can show you quick, or maybe on this here. Where is he? Here. Those are his Booleans, and I can move them, and they change everywhere, and he's still posed, right? So you don't really need to apply them, and that's the power, that you can design quite far and already have something resembling a final result.
Thank you so much. Awesome work. So I have one question. Do you have some kind of a menu of all these shortcuts that you made and some kind of a menu?
You mean if I have it somewhere on the internet? Or you mean like a sheet where I wrote stuff down?
Yeah, something like that.
Not yet, but I might publish something because it would be helpful, I think.
Sorry, no, it's still very technical, but I wanted to know like the two names of the add-ons because I think I missed one, and then how if you wanted to go a bit in depth of how you did the colors, like is it following normals or because it looked complex, the nodes.
You mean the first question was about the add-on names?
Yeah.
Hardops and Pie menu editor.
Pie menu.
Pie menu editor.
Pie.
It's like a pie and a menu in a restaurant, and you edit it. No, the colors, I mean, I could go in depth with the shaders, and it would take like maybe another hour.
Shit.
I would happily do it, but I don't.
Oh, damn.
I'm afraid I don't have time. But it looks scary. It's not very scary. It's textures over textures. And the color gradient, you can control shaders in Blender with the gradient, with the locators, like empty objects, which you can move around, like so. Oops. And you see the color fades, and you can go crazy with it. This one is just one gradient. Oh yeah. Also procedural.
Hello. So when you're working on something like this, as a concept that is meant as a reference for, let's say, a game production model, do you ever deliver the actual blend file so that someone can fix the topology when you're not caring about the topology when modeling?
It depends on the client if they want it. Some clients gladly accept 3D files. They vomit when they see the topology, but they're still happy. Like they're bitter, but also happy because they have the reference stuff, and it's much easier for their 3D artists to then implement it into the game. So it happens. But again, some clients also say, no, we just want the inspiration by it. We don't care about the model. So it depends.
Thanks.
1 second, just got to run to the other side of the room.
All right.
Thank you for this. I was wondering if you have any tutorials or so forth that we can use to go into further detail to learn more on this.
I personally don't have any yet, but there will come a day where I have one. But I can recommend checking out the channel of the HardOps add-on. They have a lot of videos where they showcase the functional of the add-on itself, but by doing so, they also show you what Blender in general can do, and this can help you learn. And when it comes to design, which I didn't touch too much, about designing beautiful shapes and so on, there is a nice Gumroad by Alex Senichal. It's called Visual Design Basics. It's very good. I would recommend it if you want to up your design game, up your game with shapes. Very good stuff.
Just the last 2 questions, we've just had 2 sent in. If you could quickly just sort those out, and I think that'll be probably all we have time for.
Texturing in Blender, I mean, for me it's enough. It's not substance by any means, but you can still achieve quite good results with it because you have procedural nodes that allow you to create edge wear, ambient occlusion, this gradient stuff. You can plug in textures from Megascans as a base, like for some metal and imperfections. But if you are solely thinking about texturing an asset, or maybe a concept that you are happy with 1,000,000%, you can do it in Substance, and it's also nice. But for me personally, Blender texturing is sufficient. Let's put it like that. Mobile workstation. Yes, I work on the mobile workstation most of the time, like for my personal work anyways. At my studio, I have a big machine. But performance issues, as far as I'm concerned, happen mostly when you are dealing with environments that are very realistic or supposed to be very realistic. This is when it starts crumbling. When you have to manage a very high poly count, this stuff is, in my case, it's not happening too often. Like those guys, I don't know how many polygons they have, 1 million, because it's all instanced, it's not much. So I don't have performance issues, but there is also a thing to say, I consciously make the effort to work clean, so I don't run into those issues. Because I worked on shitty computers, and I know that it hurts when you work dirty. You have like unused textures or like 4K textures and all this nightmare. Your scene is slow and you're just ripping hair out of your head. It's horrible. I hate it. I want my stuff to be like very fluent. So I would say you can avoid performance issues.
Super cool and awesome as well, I think is a pretty good note to end it on. So if everyone could put their hands together for Andrei, say thanks for such a great talk.